Supreme Court rules in favor of religious rights. Joe Biden lied about Hunter Biden's dealings with China. We have updates on inflation as well as recession, and 42 migrants died while trying to cross the border in a big rig. All that today here on The Bald Brad Show. Welcome to the Bald Brad Show. Folks, we have a ton of news for you today that we got to get to. The first of which is the Supreme Court affirms religious liberty in favor of public high school football coach that was punished for praying after games. Now, I've known about this story for quite some time, and what I would like to do, very similar to Roe v. Wade, is do a little bit of backtracking on how this got to the Supreme Court in the first place. Because when you hear this story and what this school did to this man is just baffling and head spinning. So you had this coach named Joe Kennedy, who was an 18-year Marine veteran, and he was an assistant coach of a high school football team. And before every game that he coached, he went and prayed out on the field to give thanks at the conclusion of each game for what the players had accomplished and for the opportunity to be a part of their lives through football. And what a great way to practice your religious freedoms by doing such a thing. So after the whistle of his very first football game in 2008, he took a knee and quietly prayed, thanking God for his prayers. His quiet, private prayers, that's important, lasted about 15 to 30 seconds, folks. He continued this practice after every single game for 7 years. So he'd been doing this for a long time, doing it on his own, nobody coming up to him or nothing, just in private. And after a while, what happened was that students started to notice what the coach was doing. And they asked him if they could join him in prayer. It wasn't that he went and publicized this. It wasn't that if he was going up to them saying, hey, you need to come and do this, and forcing them and coercing them into doing anything. They came up to him and asked if they could be a part of it. And he told them, hey, this is a free country. You could do what you want. So the players elected to gather with their coach after the games and pray with them. And for those that are new to the Bald Brad Show, or heck, even if you're a frequent viewer, I am a professional ice hockey referee. This is not uncommon to see a private Catholic school, high school team pray after the games. Sometimes they even pray before games. Furthermore, they'll even bring a priest to pray before games over the speakers. And it wouldn't be uncommon to see a non-Catholic high school or a non-Christian high school praying after the game with a Catholic or a Christian high school as well. Meaning you have a non-Christian and a Catholic or Christian school praying all together. Nobody's forcing them to do it. This is something the players elect to do. But as you can imagine, the left are going to get all up in arms about this, which is what happened to this coach here. So after 7 years of praying, you had an employee of a different high school take notice and go to his high school principal and tell the administration that this person has a big disapproval with what the coach is doing. So you didn't even have any employee or anybody from the coach's actual high school that he was employed by getting all up in arms. It was somebody else from a different high school that reported this guy. So the high school administrator expressed disapproval to Coach Kennedy, prompting the coach to post on Facebook, quote, I think I just might have been fired for praying. So what the school did was say, hey, look, you can't be doing what you're doing. You need to, in other words, go and basically do it extremely privately. And this was exactly what the district had to say here. They said, the coach could engage in religious activity, including prayer, so long as it does not interfere with the job responsibilities. The activity is physically separate from any student activity, and students are not allowed to join such activity. Even if they elect, even if they want to do it, they cannot. So basically what he started to do was just do his thing privately. And that still wasn't good enough. He was still put on leave. He still got in trouble for complying with the district's demands. And so obviously, as you can imagine, he got some legal counsel and it got taken all the way up to the Supreme Court. So on Monday morning, current day, the Supreme Court of the United States ruled in Kennedy v. Bremerton School District that a public high school football coach in the state of Washington had his First Amendment rights violated after he was placed on administrative leave by the school district and banned from participating in the football program for praying on the field after games in view of students. I would also like to point out, as a hockey player for 25 years, we prayed in the locker room. It is extremely common to see football players pray before every single game. And they're going to sit there and target this guy for praying on the field by himself after he met your demands, and you're still going to do this to him? Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Quote, SCOTUS sides with a high school football coach in a First Amendment case about a prayer at the 50-yard line. SCOTUS blog tweeted Monday morning, quote, in a 6-3 ruling, SCOTUS says the public school district violated the coach's free speech and free exercise rights when it barred him from praying on the field after games. The case was ruled along ideological lines. Absolutely right. Isn't this crazy that we live in 2022 and you have this type of stuff clogging up the system in the Supreme Court where you got a guy minding his own damn business for 7 years, praying on the 50-yard line? And this is the type of cases that have to be brought up to the Supreme Court. Do you think there's a little bit of a problem in our society here? Do you think there's a little bit of lack of knowledge of what our Constitution says? This is what happens, folks, when you remove civics from the school system. They don't teach this stuff anymore. And if they do, it is extremely baseline and or manipulated by these leftist activist teachers that are teaching it in such a way to where now you have other people going out there, seeing somebody pray on the field, minding their own damn business, and reporting it and now getting somebody potentially fired, suspended, or let go from the school. And can't even perform their job, which you'd imagine, what the hell does prayer after a game have to do with your duties? Your duty's done basically at that point. What are you supposed to do? Sit there and recap the game for your players, which you could do at a different date and a different time, which you most likely will do with video. But I digress. Unbelievable. Well, the majority opinion was authored by Justice Neil Gorsuch. He said here, a government entity sought to punish an individual for engaging in a brief, quiet, personal religious observance, doubly protected by the free exercise and free speech clauses of the First Amendment. And the only meaningful justification the government offered for its reprisal rested on a mistaken view that it had a duty to ferret out and suppress religious observances, even as it allows comparable secular speech. The Constitution neither mandates nor tolerates that kind of discrimination. Well, see, the left don't understand that, which is why they're all up in arms about this. You know, yeah, they're up in arms about Roe v. Wade. Yeah, they're up in arms about the New York law that was disposed of by the Supreme Court regarding conceal and carry licenses. They're up in arms about all this because nothing is going their way at this point, because you finally have justices that go in, originalist, contextualist, that look at the Declaration of Independence and don't want to inhibit people's freedom of speech, do not want to inhibit people's Second Amendment rights. They actually want to look at U.S. history, see how it was formed, what was the original author's basis for enacting that amendment, and then applying it today. But then you have these 3 justices on the Supreme Court that can't seem to do that. And so the leftists are losing their mind about all this stuff because they're seeing that the religious right is winning, that the crazy leftists are losing. And so now they're taking to the streets, their heads are spinning, saying all a bunch of nonsense. Joseph Kennedy, a Marine veteran, again, was the assistant football coach. He's all stoked about what's going on because, hey, he gets his First Amendment rights to practice what he believes in. And folks, he believes in this so much that when they actually told him that he couldn't do this anymore, meaning pray, he stopped doing private prayers altogether after the game. And when it was first enacted, he was driving after the game. He couldn't do it. He couldn't actually get home. So he reversed and went back to the field when it was closed and made his way into the stadium and went on that 50-yard line and prayed by himself with nobody around. That's how much this is a man of faith. And he couldn't just come to grips with allowing a government entity to stop his right of exercising his First Amendment right. Kennedy's private religious exercise did not come close to crossing any line one might imagine separating protected private expression from impermissible government coercion, Gorsuch wrote on Monday. Learning how to tolerate speech or prayer of all kinds is part of learning how to live in a pluralistic society, a trait of character essential to a tolerant citizenry. Now, this is important here because our whole foundation of our country is built on a moralistic society, but we are losing that. There's been news that we're losing more people in effect of not believing in religious freedoms, religious rights, freedom altogether, Christianity, Catholicism. America is becoming less religious in effect. And you're seeing how it is taking an effect on our country and our society and the way that our social fabric is tearing now by these types of cases being brought up to the Supreme Court, which is mind-boggling. But that's not going to stop the left from acting like a bunch of nutsos and crazy and taking to the streets, and not just the streets, but Twitter, and lying about this case. I mean, blatantly lying. And I read you very specific parts and told you about very specific parts of the case to prove that Ilhan Omar, this leftist, going out on the airwaves and lying, just blatantly lying about this whole thing. This is what she said on Twitter. The Supreme Court just ruled that public school teachers can pressure students to join in prayer at public school events, but can also retaliate against those that don't join in. Religious freedom is dead in America. Thankfully, you have Ted Cruz that said literally every word of this is false. 100%. Just look at how the left manipulate, they lie, they slander, they do all sorts of things, and their base, their people just full-heartedly believe in it. Now, I understand there is that case to be made that the right, Trump's base, which maybe I'm a part of because I love Trump, are a part of it as well, but a lot of Trump's base could say, hey, yeah, he says some knucklehead things, but hell, I love what he does. His actions, I love. He can say whatever the hell he wants. I don't think he should, but he can. And you know what? I'm fine with that as long as those words don't always turn into action. Meaning if he says something stupid that I disagree with, I hope that he doesn't turn it into action. But what they do, the left, they say stupid stuff and they turn it into action. Or they say one thing and then do the other. Meaning they say, oh, well, I'm pro-America, I want to drill more, I want more oil production, all these things. And then you go, well, I'm not going to increase oil domestic production. We're not going to put on more regulations on oil companies. But then your actions do the complete opposite. You put more regulations on oil companies. You shut down oil rigs. You shut down refineries. You shut down the Keystone Pipeline. You do all these things. So you speak one thing and do the other. Again, that's fine if you speak one thing and do the other. But when you say one thing, and then when your actions prove to be bad and actually hurting the economy, actually hurting America, that poses a problem. Where Trump said it's something asinine, but his actions helped America, made America a better place. So again, Ted Cruz calls her out for this. And the Congresswoman's first claim accused the court of allowing teachers to pressure students to join in public prayer. In contrast, the ruling was limited to coaches' ability of freedom to pray publicly. And if you heard, the students came up to him and asked him to pray. He didn't go out there and start freaking basically campaigning and having people join him. No. None of that happened. But she's going to sit there and espouse that as well. So according to First Liberty, which represented Kennedy in the case, on September 17, 2015, Superintendent Aaron Lavelle sent Coach Kennedy a letter informing him of the district's investigation into whether Coach Kennedy had appropriately complied with the school's board's policy on religious-related activities and practices. The school noted that Kennedy had not actively encouraged or required participation. That's according to the district themselves. The same people that had a problem with doing what he was doing are saying that, hey, you know what? He didn't sit there and encourage any of this. But Ilhan Omar is going to take to the airwaves and push a bunch of false crap, which is typical from the Democrats and the progressive left. Omar also claimed public schools could retaliate against students who don't join in prayer with teachers. The ruling did not offer any information, folks, regarding the treatment of students for a school staff member who chose to personally pray at the conclusion of a football game. Nothing. Zip. Nilch. Nada. The Congresswoman's conclusion that religious freedom is dead in America is the opposite of the case's conclusion itself. Kennedy instead acknowledged that the court ruling is in favor and was a win for religious freedom. It's not dead. It's going the complete opposite direction. There is a case to be said that it is declining, not religious freedom itself, but the aspect of Americans practicing and believing in some sort of faith. It's not dead. That went in the right direction. You should be stoked about this. As a politician that's supposed to represent the freedoms and abide by the Constitution, should be stoked about this. But we all know Ilhan Omar's true beliefs about America. It is amazing to me that she is elected, very similar to AOC, Bernie Sanders, all these people that basically want to destroy America from the inside out. They won't acknowledge as much, and maybe they might not even believe that they're doing it, but their words and actions prove otherwise. that they continually get elected. Like, there's not many of them, but there's people that vote these knuckleheads in, and they're voted in by other knuckleheads, and these knuckleheads go from state to state and move because they vote in these same policies that destroy those states. So they want to go to Texas, Tennessee, Florida, these red states, and enact those same policies that they did from the place where they're coming from and destroy that place as well. And they can't figure it out, folks. They can't wrap their head around any of this, of how America is going in the wrong direction in certain aspects. And they blame the Republicans for it. They're enacting these leftist policies that are generated from the left themselves because they were voted in by the left. And they think that it's the right. I mean, we just did a whole clip on a lady that was blaming inflation and blaming all these things in terms of the economy, immigration, all this stuff on the religious right. I mean, you got to be some next level dumb to think it's the religious right that's creating all this when you got a guy in office that literally doesn't know his name, doesn't know his wife's name, doesn't know how to get to the Oval Office. We've seen that clip before where the Secret Service is telling him, hey, go right, and he goes straight. I mean, remember, he was vice president for 8 years. He knew how to get to the Oval Office. Secret Service literally has to direct him. And they're directing him on all levels of his life. There was a card that he had, and he accidentally showed it because he was reading the back of it, and it gave him step-by-step instructions on what to do when going to a meeting. It told him, enter the room, take your seat. It's like, it's amazing that it didn't tell him, take a breath, breathe in, exhale out. It is astonishing. Can you imagine if that was Donald Trump? Can you imagine? When Donald Trump was in office, there was a whole freak out by the media and the left because he was drinking water and his hand was shaking a little bit. A little bit. And they lost their shit. But yet you have Joe Biden falling upstairs, fighting with his teleprompter every week, forgetting what the question was when it was just asked, forgetting losing his train of thought, falling on a bicycle while standing still, hitting a golf ball backwards when it's supposed to go forwards. That is just a few of the many gaffes that this guy has had in a year and a half. He has more gaffes than freaking George Bush did. And you would think there'd be more coverage on this, but there's not. You would think there'd be more of a demand from the left and the media saying, hey, you know what? We had this whole ideology about Trump and hypocrisy, about his medical condition and how he ate all this fast food and drank Coke every day and all this stuff. But there's not shit, excuse my French, but there is nothing about them pushing this whole idea that, hey, maybe he's not all there. Maybe he's in a cognitive decline. Maybe we should have some sort of test that be shown to the public that, hey, this guy's really suffering. Like, he's going in a really wrong direction. Everybody sees it, but the left doesn't want to acknowledge it. So, again, you have Ilhan Omar going and saying a bunch of nonsense, which is typical. Hell, she should have a spot on The View now that I think about it. She should be a co-host on The View. Unbelievable. It's incredible to know that I did nothing wrong. Everything I did was fine. That comes from the coach himself, and good. So to have that kind of support of the Constitution and to still have faith, not in God, but also the country itself, that you are still able to practice your religious freedoms out there in the public without having to lose your job. So Ilhan Omar, just the other day as well, took to Twitter and espoused more controversial views by saying it's not pro-life if you oppose gun violence prevention, oppose universal health care, oppose affordable prescription drugs, oppose the child tax credit, oppose paid leave, oppose universal child care, oppose free school meals, and support endless wars. I mean, this lady, very similar to what we say on The View, just goes out and just says a bunch of crap. And there's like no thought. There's no actual synapses going off. And it makes me wonder if she just writes this and just typing away. Like she's having her little like fit at the time, you know, maybe she didn't have her cup of coffee, or she just woke up in the morning on the wrong side of the bed, which she does probably every day with her panties in a bunch. It just goes and says a bunch of, and just spews caca. It's like when you come home from a hard day, you know, and your loved one it's just spewing a bunch of crap that happened at work. You're like, for the love of God, we get it, but shut up. You know, she just continues and continues. So that's the left for you. Gonna rub the shoulders of Joe Biden through the media, allow Ilhan Omar and others to get away with stupid stuff. And speaking of getting away with stuff, this brings me to my next story. Joe Biden told us that he knew nothing about Hunter Biden's dealings with China, knew nothing about it, no recollection, anything of the sort. Well, Joe Biden, turns out, spoke with his son about dealings with China's oil tycoon. And it's not like this is hearsay. This literally is in a voicemail. So President Joe Biden spoke with his son, Hunter, about a business deal Hunter struck with a Chinese businessman. A voicemail left by Joe himself to his son found that the younger Biden's abandoned laptop reveals that he did in fact have a dealing and Joe Biden knew about it. The elder Biden, the big man is what they called him, then out of office, called Hunter on December 12, 2018, soon after the New York Times published a story on one of Hunter's business partners, who is a chairman of the Chinese energy giant CEFC. So Joe Biden left a voicemail to his son saying, hey, I wanted to speak with you about the article, adding, I think you are clear, according to a copy of the voicemail reported by the Daily Mail. Let's go ahead and listen to that voicemail right now.
Hey, pal, it's Dad. It's 8:15 on Wednesday night. If you get a chance, give me a call. Nothing urgent. Just want to talk to you. I thought the article, at least the thing online, it's going to be printed tomorrow in the Times, was good. I think it's clear. And anyway, if you get a chance, give me a call. I love you.
If you listen, the voicemail literally contradicts what the White House's and the president's claims were, that he never spoke with his son about Hunter's multiple overseas business deals. It wasn't just one, it wasn't just two, tons of business deals. And everybody on the right, conservative Republicans, go, where the hell is this guy getting all this money from? He doesn't know anything. The only thing he knows how to do is get drugs and illicit prostitutes. And there's a ton of video clips on that. But it's like, he doesn't have any traits other than snorting cocaine off a dog's back, licking cocaine out of the carpet. I mean, it's amazing that there is not more journalism and investigation on this, not just from the government, but just investigative journalism. Where the hell are all these people that went to school for 4+ years that are supposed to actually do their job, but nowadays they just got some anonymous report from some anonymous person that they probably just anonymously thought up in their own brain that doesn't actually exist to come out with a story that's completely fake news, according to Donald Trump. That's the one thing that was great about Donald, the 45th, one of the greatest presidents in modern times, exposing the media. If we didn't have Donald Trump, just imagine where we would be at today with all the lies and crap. He exposed them, just similar to Project Veritas, about all the crap that they're doing. It is mind-boggling. The president said in the voicemail, to recap this, hey, pal, it's Dad. It's 8:15 on Wednesday night. If you get a chance, just give me a call. Nothing urgent. I just want to talk to you. I thought the article released online, it's going to be printed tomorrow in the Times, was good. I think you're clear. And anyway, if you get a chance to give me a call, love you. Yeah, you're in the clear. The media supports me in every way, Hunter. Don't worry about it. They're going to have my back. They're going to rub my shoulders. They love me. They always go with our narratives. They'll lie for us. It's fine. Unbelievable. Well, the New York Times story included references to Hunter's discussion with top lieutenants from the CEFC, Vice Chairman Patrick Ho. Ho was arrested in the United States, folks, by the way, in 2017. He was sentenced to 3 years in prison for violating the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act. So it's amazing how this guy, Joe Biden's son, Hunter Biden, continually, what's the word I'm looking for? Puts himself around corrupt people, criminals, people that are breaking the law. I mean, it makes you wonder how much dirt China has on this family. Because Joe Biden's kissing China's ass, folks. And I love how during the campaign against Donald Trump, Joe Biden goes, oh, China's going to eat your lunch, man. Joe can't even remember what he had for lunch. And where is the government at in all this? Can you imagine if this was one of Trump's sons There doesn't even have to be a voice message. There doesn't have to be crap. Just the inkling that there was some anonymous reporting by the media that one of Trump's sons had some foreign business dealings and that Trump said that never happened. Remember, there's no actual evidence of this, just as obviously hypothetical. Do you think there would be a full-blown investigation with a grand jury and all the lights and the theatrics and Ilhan Omar, AOC, Bernie Sanders, Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, all these people, these vultures going after them? I think so. I think so, folks. But you're not going to see that here because, again, they're all in bed with these people. Drain the swamp. We need to get somebody in here next election that's going to do something about this. It is mind-blowing that you have all this information about Hunter Biden's dealings and nothing's happening. Yet people lose their crap with the Trump children, Ivanka Trump having business dealings before her father was ever elected and even thought about electing, with doing certain clothing lines. And they were all up in arms about that. Oh, they're profiting off China. They're profiting off Russia and all these things. Yes, he's a freaking billionaire that builds towers all over the globe. Yeah, he's going to be profiting in some way, shape, or form. No shit. But yet you have this, a guy, Hunter Biden, doesn't have any traits, nothing, is just making millions of dollars somehow. And we know how. It's off the president's back. It's off the Biden name. But again, it makes you wonder, folks. It makes you wonder. So on May 13th, 2017, this is just a little bit after all that corruption's taking place and still is, an email found on Hunter Biden's laptop that was restored in 2019 showed proposed equity splits among Hunter and his partners in any deal with the CEFC. The emails outlined remuneration packages for 6 people, including Hunter and Joe Biden. Yes, both of them. But he knew nothing about it, folks. Just getting packages from these people, had no clue. Which might be true that he just literally doesn't know anymore. At the time, I think he knew. But this dude, remember, folks, can't remember a damn thing. He has to be told to sit down at meetings. I don't think he knows. I think it happened. But I think, hey, strong case going, I have no recollection of that. Dude has no recollection his wife exists. He has to be told he's president every morning. The email proposed a 20 split for H, which sources identified as Hunter, and a split of 10 held by H for the big guy. Again, the big guy was Joe Biden. Multiple sources, including Hunter's former freaking business partner, identified the big guy as Joe Biden. But, you know, they're all going to say, I knew nothing about it. Who's the big guy, huh? Who's the big guy? Hunter, you know who the big guy is? I don't know who the big guy is. Just all this crazy, crazy stuff. I mean, it is amazing. Again, I'm so baffled. There is no investigative journalism going on other than the Daily Wire, Blaze TV, Fox News. You would think that the government would be pouncing on this. After Ho, who again was the dealings man, was arrested in the United States, his first call was literally to Hunter's uncle, James Biden. It's the whole family that's involved in this, according to the New York Times. Ho later hired Hunter to represent him on a $1 million retainer. A recording found on Hunter Biden's abandoned laptop from May 11, 2018 showed him talking about his relationship with Ho and complaining about the New York Times' interest in it at the time. Cool, I have another New York Times reporter calling about my representation of the literally Dr. Patrick Ho, the effing spy chief of China who started the company that my partner, who is worth $323 billion, founded, is now missing. Biden said in the 47-minute recording, the richest man in the world is missing, who was my partner. So you have all this evidence coming out of him saying as such that he had dealings. You had Joe Biden on Voice saying that he had dealings. That's not even the worst of what we've seen of Joe Biden. But, you know, hey, it's the same thing with that whole Iran and all that other stuff, that all these business dealings are just corrupt beyond belief. And I'm telling you, China has to have a whole file on this guy. China has to have some dirt on him, which is why he's going light on China. And folks, when I say light on China, we're what, 2.5 years out from COVID-19? Where is any sort of damages on China for the Wuhan virus, COVID-19, whatever you want, the Chinese virus, according to Trump, the worst virus ever. It was a lab leak. You know, where is the punishment on China for this? The whole world suffered. You would think that somebody would start going after them now that we're kind of out of it for the most part. Nothing's happening. They're going to get away scotch-free. Typical. Why? Because the left are in bed with them. The Democrats love them. Well, speaking of things going downhill, and no, I'm not talking about Joe Biden's cognitive abilities. I'm talking about inflation in the economy. We have experts coming out and saying that inflation is here for a while. And this isn't coming from me. This is coming from investment experts. And by the way, folks, you don't have to be an expert to see it. You're all living it. You're all seeing it. You can look at the trends. You look at the graphs, which is what we're going to cover here. So Macro Trends Advisors, LLC, who are the founding partners, come out and say that they warned on Sunday that inflation will be here for a while as consumer prices hit a new four-decade high last month. Speaking on Fox News Live, Rochelle forecasted the price hikes will likely go even higher.
To inflation, let's take a look at the graph from January 2010 until May of this year. You see the spike happening now. Mitch, where does it end?
I think it probably goes higher. One of the things that's in there, not to get into the weeds, Mike, but shelter costs, what it costs for housing ends up being a lagging indicator of the way it's calculated by the government. And those prices are continuing to go up. Home prices are going up, even though interest rates are going up. Rent is skyrocketing. So I think you have that as a tailwind pushing up inflation. And oil prices, whether it be diesel or gasoline, flows through virtually everything we consume. The food on the table has to get from wherever it came to the store that you bought it in or the restaurant that serves it. So if gasoline prices stay the same or go up, and more importantly, if diesel prices go up, I think that's going to be pushing inflation. So I think inflation's here for a while. In fact, not only will it be a midterm election issue, it's possible that, once the potential presidential candidates hit the trail and start going to Iowa and New Hampshire, it's probably going to be an issue then as well.
Interesting. Mitch, Rochelle, thank you so much for your time and your analysis today.
You also had earlier this month, the Labor Department revealed that the Consumer Price Index, CPI, is a broad measure for the price of everyday goods like gasoline, groceries, rent. And those rose 8.6% in May. We did a whole episode on that. If you haven't seen it, go check out our catalog. But prices jumped 1% in 1 month period from April. Those figures were both higher than the 8.3% headline figure and a 0.7% monthly gain forecasted by Refinitiv economists. Folks, things are so bad. And to give you a little bit of perspective, this is the fastest pace of inflation that we've seen since December of 1981. This is wild. And it's only getting worse. It's not like it's getting better. Remember, Joe Biden's doing everything I can, folks. I got everything under control. The dude doesn't have his own bowels under control, but he's going to sit there and tell us that he has the economy under control. Well, Rochelle also noted that the higher prices are forcing Americans to make choices. And they're not making good choices, by the way. Rather than spending cash and using a debit card, using your checking account, your checkbook, they're putting all this stuff on credit. So while interest rates are increasing, they're putting stuff on credit, which is costing them more than what it would have been in the first place if you paid for cash. So not only are you paying for an increase in inflation, but now you're on top of that, you're dramatically increasing the price of that good because you're buying it on credit, so long as you don't pay off that credit card before the interest rate kicks in. So this is crazy. And everything's under control. Check this out. Shelter costs, which account for roughly 1/3 of the CPI, accelerated in May, climbing to 0.6%. It marked the fastest 1 month gain since 2004. On an annual basis, shelter costs have climbed 5.5%, the fastest since 1991. Joe Biden has broken so many records, he can have his own Guinness Book of World Records by himself, and he'd cover front to front page, front to back. Energy prices rose 3.9% in May. Folks, these are like, you'd be lucky to see these types of prices in a year. And we're seeing them on a month-to-month basis. 34.6% from last year. This is energy prices. 34 freaking percent. Almost 35. Check this out. It's not even as bad as gasoline. Gasoline on average costs 48.7% more than it did from 1 year ago. I mean, everything's fine. Everything's fine. In all, fuel prices jumped 16.9% in May alone on a monthly basis, pushing the 1 year increase to a stunning 107%. But this guy was elected by 70 freaking million people. And we're supposed to take them all serious in 2 years, folks. Not even 2 years, basically a year and a half when people start running again. All these people are going to come out of the woodworks. The same people, again, that are putting menstrual blood on themselves, freaking twerking in the streets, shouting that their rights are being taken away. You know, these same rights that don't actually exist in the Constitution, but they think it does because you got Ilhan Omar saying stupid stuff. The View, all these Democrats, these progressive left are coming out saying that all these things exist, very similar to how a man can actually have a baby. They're saying all these things actually exist when they don't exist. But remember, conservatives and the Republicans, we're all conspiracy theorists. We make this stuff up while they are literally crafting narratives as we speak about all the stuff that's being fake news. Unbelievable. You know, again, the same people that won't sit there and call out Joe Biden and Hunter Biden's dealings with China, but they're going to sit there and claim that, you know, we're all fake. And it wasn't just inflation here and gas price and all that stuff. You have the S&P 500 heading towards the worst first half since the 1970s. We have here that stocks are about to turn in the worst first half in 50 years when the second quarter wraps on Thursday as inflation sits at a 40-year high. The S&P 500, the broadest measure of stocks, is nearly down 18% this year, the worst since 1970, as tracked by Dow Jones Market Data Group. That makes 2022 the fifth worst half performance on record. I mean, when I was saying Joe Biden's breaking records in a way that we've never seen, I wasn't exaggerating. I mean, immigration, inflation, CPI, GDP. I mean, it's record after record here that this guy is breaking, and he doesn't have a clue. I mean, he doesn't know any of this is going on. And I'm saying that because look at the card that he had to be given to sit down and talk and give a question. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me, hand to God, if somebody dressed him in the morning. It wouldn't surprise me. This is a guy that fell going up the stairs multiple times. This is a guy, folks, that fell off his bicycle standing stationary. Stocks are falling at the possibility of a recession as recession possibilities rise. So here's some graphs here of the S&P 500. I mean, you're almost looking at 1,000-point decrease. If you look at a year to date or a 5-year, you could really see the decrease from basically November 30th, 2021 till today. It's almost 1,000 points. It's like 900 something. So just things going in a great direction with Joe Biden in office. You had a great increase under Trump, and leave it up to Democrats to freaking destroy everything. The Federal Reserve, which hiked interest rates this month by 0.75%, has failed to contain inflation thus far, as critics, including the U.S. Treasury Secretary Larry Summers, continued to also predict a forthcoming recession. But yet you're going to have Karine Jean-Pierre say that this is just a transition phase. Yes, a transition into recession, but they don't want to admit it. See, if they use the word transition, if it goes into recession, you're going to say, yeah, we're in a transition phase. That's what we're talking about. If it goes in a different direction of not a recession, yeah, look, we were right. See, it's in a transition phase. So they're covering their own asses. They don't want to admit it. You have the U.S. Central Bank saying the same thing, that we're heading towards a recession. Again, you have the Treasury Secretary saying that we're heading towards a recession. The CEOs are banking on the fact that we're heading into a recession. I mean, everybody says we're heading into a recession other than Joe Biden. But Joe Biden doesn't want to acknowledge it. So one of the main gaffes of the Biden administration is driving our economy down to the ground. And another one, which leads me to my next story, is another one of his presidencies that he doesn't want to challenge and tackle on and actually fix is immigration. And as I said, I'll always keep you up to date on what's going on with illegal immigration. And we have a terrible, terrible story on something that never needed to happen. If Joe Biden would just put in Trump's policies, be harsh on the border, you'd have these 40 people still alive. Not just 40 people, 42 people to be specific. We have reports here that at least 42 people were found dead inside a truck carrying migrants into Texas. And the way they died is just, it's horrible. Just completely horrible. So more than 40 illegal immigrants were found dead inside an 18-wheeler tractor trailer on the southwest side of San Antonio, Texas, while authorities rushed 16 others to nearby hospitals. I don't have reports on if they all survived and how many of them died. But there was live video from News 4 San Antonio showing fire trucks and police at 9600 block in New Laredo Highway on the southwest side. KSAT News reports several ambulances coming and going to the scene. There was a report that 46 of them died. You have a quote here, "Our prayers raised up to you, O Lord, for their souls. Lord, have mercy on them. They hope for a better life. Lord, after Uvalde, and now this, help us. We need you. So many people suffering. God, God, God." This comes from the Archbishop of San Antonio, from the Archdiocese. You have Uvalde. Texas has been dealing with this immigration crisis since Joe Biden's been in office. You have Greg Abbott trying to do everything he freaking can, to the point where literally the taxpayers of the state of Texas are having to pay for their own border wall, which is supposed to come from the federal government. But when you have the executive branch, the head of the executive branch, Joe Biden, not wanting to execute the laws like he's supposed to do by protecting his citizens, protecting the borders, basically, like we said in yesterday's show, giving amnesty and wants to give amnesty to about 1 million illegal immigrants. This is what you have. They haven't done anything. They're not going to do anything. We've said it 1,000 times. Every episode I feel like we do on immigration, nothing's changed. Things only get worse. You have 6,000 to 8,000 people coming in per day. You have roughly 3 million people, that the ones we know about 3 million people coming in. Of that 3 million, CBP, DHS, Alejandro Mayorkas, the DHS secretary, just allows 1.5 million people into the interior United States. You have people that are on no-fly watch list coming into the country. You have active murders that they're catching on a weekly basis. We did that on the old episode about a couple weeks ago. This is on a weekly basis. Mass amounts of fentanyl, drugs, murderers, sex traffickers. All this stuff is coming in on a weekly basis, and he doesn't want to stop it. His main job as commander-in-chief is to protect the people of the United States, and he's not doing it. Can you imagine if you were a CEO of a company and you weren't doing your basic duties? Do you think you would still have a job? Do you think you would be out? I think so. But not Joe Biden. He'll get reelected by the Democrats. Even if the man literally can't speak, he's slurring his words. He can't even chew his food, so he's having it blended up and fed to him. The Democrats will still elect him because they don't have anybody else. Literally nobody else. But everything's the Republicans' fault. Everything's the Republicans' fault. So a spokesperson from San Antonio Police Department told the Daily Wire authorities will hold a press conference tonight on the critical incident. Authorities will live stream the event on the department's Facebook page. The spokesperson did not have an exact time. The incident comes approximately 24 hours after San Antonio police bust a human smuggling operation at a local home where 14 illegal immigrants were found, ranging in ages from 19 to 33. And again, this brings me to my point. 1.5 million were allowed into the country. Some say upwards of 3 million. You have over 200,000 people crossing into the border every single month. But those are the ones that we know about. These numbers are so much higher, it is ridiculous. Case in point, these 14 illegal immigrants, we knew nothing about. We just found them. For a smuggling operation, Joe Biden has created a multi-billion, with a B, multi-billion dollar industry for smuggling people, sex trafficking, for the drug cartels, MS-13, all this stuff Joe Biden created. He's creating jobs, folks, not for Americans, but for other immigrants, people that aren't even part of our nation. He's creating jobs, but just for people that want to kill you, not to assimilate with our country. And I'm not talking about the people that want to come into this country and have a better life. I am talking about actual criminals, terrorists, drug lords, crime-ridden people. These are the people he wants to come in. Because if he didn't, he would be harsher on the border. But he's not. He doesn't give a crap. He doesn't give a crap about you. He probably, again, he says he cares. He says he cares about the oil. He says he cares about the economy. He says he cares about immigration. He says he cares about everything. But his actions prove otherwise, which, again, goes to my point at the beginning of the show, that the Democrats will say one thing and do something different. And that something different is only hurting this country. So you have Greg Abbott coming out and tweeting, at least 42 people found dead inside a truck carrying migrants in Texas. These deaths are on Biden, 100% correct. And not just on Joe Biden. They're on DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas, because he's the one that's also in charge. So you have multiple people in charge. You have Joe Biden. Joe Biden doesn't want to do anything, so Joe Biden put Kamala Harris in charge. The borders are. She didn't do anything, still hasn't figured out. Where the hell has she been, other than cackling and laughing at everything? And then you have Alejandro Mayorkas not doing anything either. So he should be added to the list as well. So we got 3 people to blame for sure. They're a result of his deadly open border policies, They show the deadly consequences of his refusal to enforce the law, which is his sole job, is to enact and execute the laws that are on the books, and he's not. He's removing them. He's making things worse. You also have Ted Cruz adding in, horrific, this is wrong. How many more people have to die before Dems give a damn? No, they'll shout that they give a damn, Ted. Oh, they'll shout till the skies that they give a damn, if people will believe it, but their actions, again, prove otherwise. You have Tony Gonzalez of Texas saying, today in San Antonio, it was 102 degrees. Imagine being abandoned inside an 18-wheeler left to die. 42 people died today. Will Mayorkas even mention their names? Probably not. But if you saw that episode where he's like, the magnets, Brett. The magnets, Brett Barr. He was talking to Brett Barr of Fox News, and he's talking about these freaking magnets and the drug cartels. Those are the ones to blame. Oh, the drug cartels, but the magnets are to blame. Well, we know where they are. And Brett Barr was also talking about the terrorists that they let in this country, going, hey, do we know where they are? Oh, we know. Oh, we know where everybody's at, Brett. We know where everybody's at. The guy doesn't have a clue where anybody's at. Now 40 people had to freaking die. Can you imagine sitting in a trailer of over 42 people? Because remember, about 16 people went to the hospital. So you got over 50, almost 60 people in this thing cooking to death. Literally, their body's overheated. And the feeling of that, of overheating, and your body can't actually adapt to it, is a terrible, terrible death, you guys. It's not like you're about to pass out. It's terrible. It's excruciating. So of the 46, it included 4 kids as well. It makes me wonder if those kids' parents were with them, or if they just sent them over here just willy-nilly. Just, oh, here you go. You'll be fine. Go with these random people that we don't even know, but will pay off. Gonzalez also added the death count rises to 46 with another 16 in the hospital to include 4 kids. Lord, when will the nightmare end? Well, not until Joe Biden's out of office, I'll tell you that much. Spoiler alert, Senator Mayorkas is one responsible. He should resign. Hey, throw Kamala Harris in the mix too, because she's also one to blame. And this is what Mayorkas had to say, folks. Unbelievable. I am heartbroken by the tragic loss of life today, and am praying for those still fighting for their lives. Far too many lives have been lost as individuals, including families, women, and children, take this dangerous journey. What I find interesting about this whole thing is that it's okay for him to say that he's praying, but when the right says they're praying after a tragic shooting, oh, what's praying gonna do? What's all this gonna do? So it's okay when he does it. Nobody's going to go after him from the left or the Democrat Party for saying, oh, well, you're just praying for lives but not doing anything different. But when the right does it, then we're going to bash them, till they're into the ground. Unbelievable. And I'm glad that he's praying. I'm not against that. I think it's great that he's praying. But I would like that prayer to turn into his ability to protect the border, which is already there. Start building it again. Putting more law enforcement at the border. Being strong and strict on this. Start doing more deportations. Being strong on it, actually have a voice out there, but no, he's going to sit there and send out a nice tweet and not do anything. So there's the update on illegal immigration. And I would like to kind of end on some interesting news here. And I want to get your guys' thoughts on this story because I'm kind of at a mixed feeling on this story. So you have a 101-year-old man was convicted of accessory to murder as a Nazi concentration camp guard and was sentenced to 5 years in prison. So this guy's 101. I mean, Lord knows how long he has left. And so he was convicted, and this comes from the Associated Press. So the man was identified internationally as Josef Schoetz, and I'm probably mispronouncing that. And in Germany, went by as Joseph S., and this was due to privacy laws, and that was coming from the Washington Post. And this guy denied serving as an SS guard for a concentration camp during World War II. Rather, he said that he was some farmer and that he was a laborer in northeastern Germany at the time. Well, the regional court found that he was, in fact, a worker at a camp near Berlin in 1942 through 1945 and was an actual listed member of the Nazi Party's paramilitary wing, citing German news agency DPA. Quote, the court has come to the conclusion that contrary to what you claim, you worked in the concentration camp as a guard for about 3 years, and that comes from the presiding judge. Now, what I find interesting is the guy's 101, and he doesn't have long, but justice still needs to prevail, right? So I want to know what you all think. Do you think that he should have just been let go, maybe on parole? I don't know if maybe parole is the right word. And again, I lack in knowledge of some aspects of the law for sure. but some sort of, maybe he should be on a watch program, just basically left at home to die. I mean, he's 101. I mean, shoot, what is he going to last three more years? Or do you think, hey, you know what? He deserves to rot in prison for his last years. I mean, hell, he lived to 101 years. He got away that long. What's the heck, another 5 years? You know, he'll probably deteriorate extremely fast there. So my heart leans in the direction of, you go to jail, man. You did some serious war crimes. You watched thousands of people. I think he was indicted of like 2,500 counts of conspiring to murder. So you already got away with 101 years. So what's the 5 years left of your remaining life? You had a good, I'm gonna put in quotes, good life, because I don't know what type of life this guy actually lived, but you got away with it for basically the time. You know, he's probably getting away going, well, shit, I got lucky there. Next 5 years, I'm going to be dead anyways. I'll be dead long and gone before that 5 years is up. So let me know what you think about it in the comments. Do you think you should just, hey, you know, if you're indicted, but hell, just stay home. We're not going to clog the system with people like you. Or do you think it's right that, you know, justice was served and he gets his 5 years? I'd be honest, folks, I can't believe he got 5 years. I mean, you would think that it would be multiple lifetimes, right? You're talking thousands of people, and he just gets kind of 5 years for it. It's crazy to me. So that's what we have in the news today, folks. I hope that you love the new format here. I have a lot of fun doing more long form because I get to actually feel like I'm having a conversation with you rather than reading through articles really fast or kind of chiseling out certain parts of my opinions and my commentary. I get to take my time with this. And if people choose not to listen, you know, that's their kind of the provocative. That's their choosing. But, you know, this is how I always imagine the show to be, more long form, maybe have some guests on and ask questions and talk about articles, maybe get my buddies on, stuff like that, and have it more fun. And then what I can do is kind of chop these stories up and then upload them throughout the day for those that want to see kind of a 5 to 10 minute segment, sometimes 15, and kind of just see those stories individually rather than watching an hour-long episode and podcast. If you're over at YouTube, go ahead and hit us that like and subscribe button. Your support would be greatly appreciated. If you're over at Rumble, give us a Rumble itself and leave us a comment down below on what you think about this Nazi concentration guy. And if you're over at all the podcast sources, Apple, Google, Spotify, all those sources and platforms, go ahead and leave us a nice 5-star review. Again, you're supporting not just the Bald Brad Show, but a conservative and the conservative movement. With that being said, folks, thank you so much for joining me on today's episode, and I will see you later here on the Bald Brad Show.